This is the Entrepreneur on Campus podcast. Let's go. On each episode, we talk about a new industry or market, including the entrepreneurial opportunities, the pains, and the surprises of that industry. Listen, the business world is so broad, and we are here to dissect all of the different ways that entrepreneurs make money.
Software, you make it one time and sell it 1,000 times.
E-com spaces, man, those things sell for like an 8x multiple. It's ridiculous.
Three main ways that we make money, and the primary one is actually ad sales.
The goal is usually to exit within 3 to 7 years.
I'm your host, Matthew Brown, and I've created this podcast to help you discover hidden opportunities. Thank you for tuning in, and here is today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur on Campus podcast. Again, I am hyped. This is Matthew Brown, your host, and today we're having a solo round. I've got some cool things to talk about. So first off, I wanted to say that a couple of listeners asked me what, in my last interview with Darren Hill, what he meant when he said that he had a couple of singles, doubles, and a couple more than that. What he meant was that a single is selling a company for 7 figures, which means anywhere between $1 million to $9.9 million. A double is selling a company for 8 figures, so from $10 million to $99 million. And then when he says more than that, you can just imagine. I'm not sure exactly what that means. So that's just for the people that didn't understand that reference. So something that I have learned lately is that over the past month or two is that podcasts help a ton with branding, with education, and with increasing clientele. In my case, I currently don't have a big backside or back end to the business of my podcast. However, a lot of businesses start podcasts, and it can be extremely beneficial. I know a guy who started a podcast just a couple of months ago, and he gets a couple hundred downloads per episode, which is good. It's not insane, but it's good. And what's cool is that he is so niche specific that he has obtained around a dozen clients from his podcast, from starting it literally 2 or 3 months ago. So it can be extremely beneficial for education, for showing, for branding, for showing really who you are and that you're trustworthy. So podcasting has a very powerful appeal to people. People are willing to sit down and listen to somebody speak for a while. It's crazy. Anyways, so I wanted to go through a couple of previous interviews that I've done. I'm not going to go into extreme depth, but I wanted to talk about them just so you know of, if you're joining the podcast now, you know of some of the previous interviews that we've done, some of the awesome guests that we've had. Honestly, I've been so amazed by some of the guests that I've had. They've been some really cool people, and I want to promote that because it's cool. So one of them was John Richards, and John Richards was definitely one of my favorite guests I've had on. He's been so awesome. So let me tell you a tiny bit about him again. So John has had multiple exits. He has invested personally in dozens and dozens of companies. Through his fund, he's also invested in probably hundreds of companies. He's done coaching for thousands of entrepreneurs. The most significant company that he built was when he put Yellow Pages on the internet, and he grew it, and then he went public with his company, which is called, it's an IPO. It's initial public offering for those who don't know, and you can basically sell shares to anybody. So I could get online, get on the stock market and buy a share. And that way, a lot of money is infused into the company, and there's a lot of money that can be used for investments or for growth, or the owners can take money out at that point. But that's what an IPO is. And that's an exchange for a share or shares of the company. And anyway, this company IPO'd at multiple billions of dollars, which obviously is a lot of money. So he knows what he's talking about. He's been involved with the entrepreneurial community for a very long period of time. And he is a big believer in the lean startup methodology. So for those of you who don't know, the lean startup methodology essentially is you could compare it to elementary level science. And John says this in the interview, that it's like a 5th grade science experiment. You first off, you form a hypothesis. You say, hey, I think that this pain is really bad, and I think that this would solve it. And so first you go and test, and you say, okay, is this pain actually bad? Who are the people that would experience this pain? And you go ask them. You say, hey, is this pain actually bad on a scale of 1 to 10? And what if they say it's a 3? If they say it's a 3, then if lots of people say it's a 3, and it's not a big pain, then that kind of ends your hypothesis. Like this isn't a bad enough pain. But if people say, wow, this is a pretty bad pain, it's like an 8 or a 9, and then you hear, okay, this is, you suggest, what if you had this solution? And people say, wow, that would really solve it. How much would you be willing to pay for that solution? And they say, oh, I'd be willing to pay anywhere between $80 to $150. And you ask a lot of people, and you basically confirm that whatever you have, and the idea that the problem that you're solving, the idea that you have, the price point, everything, you validate it with the customer, make sure that they're actually willing to pay. And the only way to really validate is when people actually pay you, because people can say they'll pay you, but they won't. But you can get a really good sense of whether or not your idea solves a big issue. And so anyway, that's the whole idea of the lean startup, is to really take it one step at a time. You don't even have, if you're building a software product, for example, you don't even have to build the software. Just go and test the idea. Like, find a big problem, go and create a business model, and then go through and test the idea. If it's functional and there's product market fit, then at that point you can go and you can build the software and start selling it, and then scale it and then sell it. That's the idea of a scalable venture. In this interview, we also talked about the different types of entrepreneurial startups and how you can do lifestyle businesses. Lots of people run lifestyle businesses. I'd say they're very common. Dentists, doctors, lawyers, even a lot of podcasters. It's basically where you exchange time for money. And it's even possible to run multiple lifestyle companies like that. A scalable venture, however, is different in the sense that you can exchange, you're not just exchanging time for money, but you probably have to put a lot of time into building whatever product, but the more that it grows, I guess you can grow at a faster pace while hiring less people. That's what makes a company scalable. And if it's scalable, that means that you can implement it to lots of different clients, and you can potentially step out. So if you're the doctor and you have your own practice, you can't ever really step out without hiring another doctor to fill your spot, because that's what the whole business it depends upon. However, if your business depends upon a product and it doesn't depend on you being there, but you were just there to make it scale and to grow it and to start it, then you can exit from that company. And John talks about the typical exit period and how usually people are looking to exit within 3 to 7 years, I believe he says, maybe 4 to 7 years. And he talks about how when people invest money into a company, they're expecting an exit within 4 to 7 years, and they're looking at a specific, I think like a 10x multiple or something of the investment that they made. So he just offered so many valuable insights about different types of ventures, and he was just very wise. He explains things so much better than I do. So go ahead and check out his interview if that sounds interesting and you haven't heard that one yet. Following John, I interviewed Evan Chymboryk, who is he has an interesting story. So he was a college student and he graduated without a job, and he thought, oh crap, well, I better figure out something to do. And he saw this big sales, kind of scammy looking sales letter, and he read the whole thing and figured out it wasn't as scammy as it looked. He bought a course to sell on Amazon, cost like $1,000 or something, and he just started researching, and within a couple of months of just heavy research, he would dive into it every day. He found a product that he found a niche where he's like, wow, I think this is a good niche I should go after. He was following this Amazon course, which taught him kind of what to look for. And then he went and he created this product. He made calls to China and made it happen, started selling this product, and 3 years later, I interviewed him, and he's sold millions of dollars worth of product. And he's doing extremely well with Amazon. He's starting to diversify and sell through other platforms as well. But so in this interview with Evan, I talked to him in great detail about how to start a company, on how to start selling products on Amazon, what to look for, what kind of volume you're looking for. We talked about some of the resources that exist to really tell. There's some Google Chrome extensions that will tell you how many products are being sold, how popular they are. You could get an estimate of how much money people are making. You can go find good niches within Amazon to go start selling. What's really cool about Amazon is it becomes extremely passive once you've done the initial upfront work. It can become extremely passive. Like Evan, he says that oftentimes he spends 5 hours a week or less managing his business, because literally what he has to do is look and see how many products he has left, how many units he has left. And if he's running out, he orders more, and he knows that it takes maybe a couple months to get all of the product that he needs in the Amazon warehouses. So he'll literally just manage inventory and do some advertising. So it becomes very passive, and that's something that obviously is very appealing to a college student as well as to anybody, just a passive source of income. However, I feel like with every passive source of income, it does take some upfront cost, and undoubtedly this is one of them. So if you want to learn more about starting on Amazon, this is a great interview for that. Evan has done it and understands it well. Next, Logan Bailey. So Logan Bailey, I interviewed him twice. The second time I interviewed him the second time because I lost his interview after I interviewed him for the first time. And I was grateful because I actually learned a lot more about his business, and also was able to develop a better relationship with him, which I love, and that's one of the reasons why I do this podcast. So what he does, he sells physical products through consumer electronics and cable management, and he's done really well with crowdfunding launches of his products, raising over $300,000 for one of his products on Kickstarter. So he started his company in 2017, hit 7 figures extremely quickly, and is growing really quickly as well, developing new products. He has a couple products that will be coming out this year. He's trying to get into retail. So we talked about 3D modeling because he has a physical product. Sometimes it sounds so difficult, like you have this idea of what a product you want to look like, a product that you want to start, you want to build, and you don't know how to start it, you don't know what you want it to look like exactly. So he talks about playing around with 3D modeling and how easy it actually is to develop a product from scratch. Maybe it's not a perfect product, but at least to get the first initial blueprints of what it looks like. We also talked about how to be successful with your crowdfunding campaigns. He talks about how he says you want to set a goal that you know that you can get the product out to the people that pay for your product on time. So don't set a goal that's too low. He just gave some good insights on that. We also talked about selling online and selling retail, and why he wants to sell some retail, and right now his company's all online. So that was awesome. Last one that I'll go over right now is I had an amazing interview with Jeanette Bennett. And Jeanette was the first woman that I interviewed, and I was so excited to have a woman on the podcast because there are so many great women entrepreneurs and people that are just doing amazing things, and so I was excited about that. So Jeanette runs Bennett Communications, and Bennett Communications has multiple popular magazines. So she's in the publishing industry, and she runs Utah Valley Magazine, which in Utah, where she's from, it's a very popular magazine. She runs Business Q, another magazine, Utah Brides, and a couple more as well. And in the interview, she went into depth about how her company makes money through advertising, she advertise a lot of it's through advertising. She does subscriptions, she does one-time deals, and she talks about how that all works. She also talks about what it takes to succeed in the publishing industry. And she says that sometimes people will say, hey, we're going to start this magazine, and she'll just say, good luck, because it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. However, if people enjoy telling stories and they enjoy interviewing people, it can be an excellent industry. She talks about how the digital world is changing the publishing industry, because people used to always have newspapers delivered directly to their doorsteps, and a lot of people would read them in the morning, every morning. However, things have changed, and a lot of it has gone digital. She talks about how there's actually still a large niche for the physical. People still like physical products. They like books, they like magazines, and that's one area where she really dials down on. She tries to excel with that, as well as adapt to the digital world. And so she gave some great insight into that. If you're interested in journalism and in publishing, the publishing industry, then this is a great one to listen to. So with that, I'm gonna finish this episode. Again, thank you guys for listening to these episodes. I do this for myself as well as for you. I hope that people can get a lot of insight out of this. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, do so. Share this with friends and keep on listening. I'm going to keep on bringing in different individuals from different industries, and hopefully you can find the business model that you're looking for, or at least learn about different ones. And one day when you actually do your startup, which could be tomorrow, you could already be going, or it could be 10 years in the future, you'll have better insight on which company you'd like to start and how to make money. Thank you guys again for listening. I love you. Have a good one.